Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning back into Cochlear Conversations. I'm back with Dr. Vaughan from the Audiology Program at Cook Children's Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Thanks again for joining us, Dr. Vaughan.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Okay, so another question that I had for you is around coverage. So obviously insurance coverage can be challenging for hearing solutions in general, but do you find that there is insurance coverage for those Baha Start solutions like SoftBand or SoundArc, or do parents have to pay for it themselves? Do you have any advice to offer about coverage?
Actually, we find that we get most of our kids covered. And I think some of that is because we pre-auth every kid, hearing aids, Baha, whatever, everything. We make sure we have pre-authorization, and I work in a big system, and so that's sometimes easier for us to do than it is in other places. But we make sure that everything is done on the front end, and that way we're not left holding the bag, or the parents are not left holding the bag. But I find that most of the time, I would dare to say 98, 99% of the time, we get them funded. I'm going to tell you some of the things that typically we do is the documentation on the front end, the testing, the information that the company is going to want to see with the insurance, the information on the history. So if it's, atresia or microtia, those things are a little easier sometimes, but making sure that that's well documented. And some of the other things, if we do get denied, we're quick to jump in and send a letter explaining the situation, sending more documentation, doing peer-to-peer phone calls if we need to, and supplying research. So I have been known to, on the front end, attach research articles to the authorization, just in case, if I know it's kind of a bumpy one, at least they'll think, oh, at least they'll be given something on the front end. So I do that a lot if I think there's a chance it's going to be denied.
That's interesting. Have you ever worked with Cochlears available resources for denials? You guys are a pretty big system, so you might do that on your own.
We typically do those on our own, but yeah, I hear it's a great resource. We're just, like I said, I'm just lucky to be in a big system that has the resources to do that. And I know that a lot of people in private practice or smaller facilities don't have that, so I know that's a big asset to them.
Yeah, that's great. So Baha Start sort of refers to those non-surgical solutions that we use with children before they're a surgical candidate. And I'm curious to know how you introduce or start talking about that surgical solution with families, maybe when they've only had a non-surgical solution from the time they're small. How do you start that conversation? When do you start that conversation? How does that work for you? And is that something that's kind of scary to introduce, or just part of your normal treatment?
It's actually part of normal treatment for me. I will honestly bring up the surgical solutions from the very first day. I feel like, especially when you've got a baby and an infant, I know that the parents are going to go home and they're going to Google everything.
Right.
And yeah, so it's going to be, I know that if I say we'll take just like a really kind of simple, easy case of atresia, and I'll say, this is what this is. They've seen the ear, nose, and throat doctor. We are getting ready to put a soft band on. And, I'll start down the road of, this is the soft band. Let's say it's a boy, because sometimes those are our most, where the most questions are, because the girls are kind of easygoing with the headbands. But we'll say, we're going to start with the soft band, but you know what, we're probably going to move to maybe a SoundArc later, because when we start ready to school, or when he starts to play soccer or something like that, we may want to look at something different to ease his mind and to ease your mind as we start to integrate, because I know that those are questions they're going to have. They're already concerned from the first minute. And then I will take that even farther and say, these are the surgical options when it's time. And sometimes they'll come back. Sometimes we revisit that on a yearly basis or a 6-month basis. They'll come back with a question of, okay, can you show me that again, where you talked about where there's a magnet or without the magnet? And so it may be a lot of information, but I know their minds are already there, and I know they're going to Google it. And I mean, we walk around with smartphones, so I would, as a parent, I would have looked at everything before and after I got to that. So I do probably, I start from the very beginning, even if it's a tiny baby.
That's interesting. Is there anything else? No,
I do.
I think that's great. I think that's great. Like you said, I think families, they're going to try to look for all the information they can anyway, and knowing what's coming in the future sometimes can help to set them at ease a little bit to know that there's kind of a journey and they're just
It
at the
is a journey.
beginning.
Yeah, it is. I say all the time that I would love to do like a journey for families, like something like some sort of a handout or something virtual
Mhm.
that you could look at. But I joke that it's going to be more like a shoots and ladders, like, game board where because they're all the same path and sometimes it's going to be really easy. You're going to like shoot down a slide and you're going to land at the place where you're supposed to be. And sometimes it's going to be like 7 ladders in a row.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
I feel like that, yeah, I just feel like they need that kind of visual to know that that's not a straight path and that their path is unique to them. And so one day I'll eventually draw that out, and put that on there. But I do like to show them because there's the end goal and then there's 1,000 ways to get there.
Yeah, that's an amazing concept. I love that. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Dr. Vaughan. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, and hopefully this has been helpful for folks out there that are in the trenches and working with those kids. So thanks for connecting with me virtually today.
Thank you. It was great.
All right.